Hi guys, Darth Deuce here, back with another video, and today taking a look at something a bit different. This is the NECA God of War Kratos and Atreus 2-pack, but a bootleg, or at least I'm pretty sure it's a bootleg. I got it off eBay from a seller in China, and it was for about the original retail price that the original NECA set went for. And if you're familiar with NECA at all, once their figures kind of aren't being made anymore, they get pretty hard to find and it's pretty expensive on the aftermarket. And the God of War 2-pack is pretty hard to find and can be pretty expensive on the aftermarket. I recently played God of War 2018, the game which these figures are based on. I actually have the original NECA like single release Kratos. I've had it for years. I just kind of impulse bought it one day all those years ago for some reason, and this has kind of been the collection. Super solid figure, but because I hadn't played the game, I didn't have a huge attachment to it for the most part, but once I played the game, I was really happy that I picked it up and still had it. And I really wanted to get the 2-pack because the 2-pack offers a lot of bonuses and advantages that the single release doesn't have. Of course, boy himself, Atreus. Of course, you get in the 2-pack, but also the Kratos figure in the 2-pack comes with a lot more accessories that I wanted to have. So looking online, seeing all these listings, when stuff comes from China and is a better price than you're expecting it to be, chances are it is a bootleg, if you're not already familiar. But I decided to give it a chance because sometimes bootlegs can be pretty decent. They can be pretty good quality and be worth the trade-off in price. Transformers proves that. I've bought in a few MP knockoffs, and in some cases the knockoffs even improve upon the original figures. And while I can't say these improve upon the original figures, there are some annoyances. I think overall these actually are a lot better than I was expecting them to be. I don't have the packaging on hand, but the packaging was really well done. It looked completely legit, and the figures were taped in there like really nicely, like it was official. If I had seen that on the shelf in the packaging at a glance, I wouldn't have been able to tell. But there are some things, and we'll get into it. But first, we will take a look at the figures. I guess we can take a look at Atreus after we take a look at Kratos, because he is not... I never reviewed the original figure, but... yeah, here's Kratos, obviously the main character you play as in the game, and yeah, I just absolutely loved the game. It's unfortunate it took me so long to get around to playing it, but it just recently came out on PC. I'm hoping Ragnarok, the sequel, will come out on PC sooner rather than later, because I can't wait to play that. But yeah, Kratos has quickly become one of my favorite video game characters. He's just so cool. The story and everything in that game is just so good as well. And the figure looks pretty nice and even feels like pretty decent quality. Like the plastic doesn't feel too brittle or bad or anything like that. It feels like how I really expect it to feel for the most part. And the paint apps for the most part are actually pretty good. That was kind of the main thing, one of the main things I was kind of worried about. NECA are known obviously for their very good sculpts and paint, and when it comes to a knockoff, I was wondering, would the paint and sculpt be up to par? And honestly, it's pretty well done. Anything that's kind of lacking, you'd have to look pretty close to really tell if it's lacking. But like the paint on his outfits and everything look really good. He's got all the washes you'd expect for the most part, which is pretty nice. Head sculpt wise, I think the sculpt actually looks really well. Sculpt is really good. It's the same sculpt. I don't know what these knockoff people do. They must have, I don't know if they steal the molds or what they do, but yeah, all the sculpted detail is all still there. It looks really great. And the paint on the face, for the most part, actually looks good. The scar doesn't look bad. The mouth is painted decently. The eyes are painted decently. The tattoos are okay. My only real issue with the head is that, from my research anyways, the official figure kind of has this reddish, pinkish tone wash over the white ash skin. And this figure on the torso and the arms doesn't really have that, but for whatever reason, they still added it to the head sculpt. And it is kind of noticeable that it's not consistent. The head has this kind of weird red wash to it, and then the rest of the figure doesn't have that, which is kind of doesn't look the greatest. It doesn't come out too obvious on camera, but it is pretty obvious in person. So that's something that kind of stands out. The skin tone itself, the scar on his torso is painted and sculpted pretty nicely, And while they don't have that whole reddish tone to it, they still gave it kind of this wash to bring out some of the sculpted detail still. And I actually gotta say, from what I've seen of the official figure, I actually like how the skin looks more on this knockoff. I don't like that reddish tone. It looks weird. I don't know if they were trying to go for him being in his Spartan Rage mode or what they're going for, but I think this looks a lot better. So yeah, there's that. I guess that's kind of an improvement, I suppose. Yeah, everything looks not too bad. The gear looks really good. His shoulder pad, it's got the wash and everything like that. Looks like pretty good. Arms there, he's got the chains sculpted on the forearms, and the paint is pretty good for the most part. So that's really nice. The belt, the buckles are still painted, and painted cleanly, I might add, which is really nice. And even the stitching is still all painted and whatnot. Those are some details I'd expect not to be painted. Even these little red bits here still have the golden buttons painted cleanly and have the black wash on them, which is great. You have the pouch here holding a Phase Ashes, which looks good as well. And a cool feature of this figure that the single release doesn't have is instead of that horn sculpted on his torso or on his belt, you actually have Mimir's head sculpted on there, which is something I really love. And he looks really good as well. Like the eye is painted nicely. The eye that's missing the eyeball also looks really good. The paint to this ropes holding him on his Kratos' belt look really clean. The tattoos, runes on his head look all really sharply done. He's got a nice wash to bring out that sculpted detail. You know, it's really good, like surprisingly good. And then even the details on the boots and the legs and whatnot look pretty good. So I'm really happy with how this figure looks for the most part. Not too much to complain about. In terms of articulation, he still has all the articulation that the original figure had. Nothing was cut out. However, these are posability. His joints are a bit looser than I'd expect them to be. But he still has dumbbell joint in the neck. Looks up, looks down. Pivots really good. Shoulder joints move out. They rotate, and they're not too bad. Swivels at the bicep work just fine. They do tend to, if you're pulling the joint, they do kind of look like they kind of want to pop out maybe a little easier than they should, but then it's not too bad. I haven't actually had them come off yet. Elbow joints bend still really good. They do feel maybe a bit gummier than they should be, but it's no worse than like a Marvel Legends or a Black Series figure nowadays. And then you have the swivel and hinge at the wrists, which work as expected. Torso joint, you know, he does crunches, not really much. Goes back a bit and rotates and pivots just a little bit, about the same articulation you get the original figure. The hip joints are fairly loose, and I feel like they have gotten a bit looser as I've been posing them around, so they are a bit loose. They kick up and they still will hold their position. They go back. There's not really much rotation there, but they do go out as well. Double hinges at the knees. Again, these double joints do have a bit of softer plastic to them, which I don't love, but it's not too bad. I've seen worse on official domestic releases. And then you have a rocker at the ankle, up and down hinge at the ankle, and you have toe bends. The toe bends are fairly loose, which is a little annoying when it comes to trying to stand them up. But the articulation and range and everything's all still really good. You just kind of have some looseness in some of the joints, mainly in the legs, which can be a little annoying, but it's not like deal breaking. They're still workable. You can still get them in action poses and have them hold the poses. They're just a bit looser than I like them to be. I think before we get into all the accessories, I'll talk about Atreus next. Just get all that out of the way. Again, at a glance, I wouldn't be able to tell if this is a knockoff or not. He looks really well done. There are a couple things that make me feel like that he is. One of those things, again, it's hard to bring it up on camera. The head sculpt and paint, for the most part, it's pretty nice, but they put multiple colors into his face to kind of give it some complexion and bring out some of the detail, but some of it just looks kind of splotched on. It looks kind of weird. Like he's got these weird, like, dark light brown splotches on his face. When you put a light on it, can't really tell on camera, but in person, you put a light on it, it's pretty obvious looking. It looks a little strange. But the eyes are painted pretty well for the most part. The mouth is painted decently. I think the hair is pretty good. It's got a bit of this like orangish sort of brushing on it to bring out some of that detail there. The fur coat or whatever he's wearing is really well done. It's got the full wash applied to it to bring out all that sculpted detail, which looks really nice. The quiver is all sculpted and painted nicely. You know, all the details are there, which is surprising if I'm being honest. So that's really nice. There's really not much missing here. Articulation wise, he has a dumbbell joint in the neck and the base of the neck, so he looks up a lot, looks down a decent amount, pivots really well and rotates. Hinges at the shoulders move out about that far. They go out about that far. They'll kick out a bit because of the way his shirt's sculpted. Does have a bicep swivel. I did actually have to heat these up under hot water because they were stuck at first. I got them unstuck, now they're fine, but that's something to look out for. Double hinges at the elbows do feel a little flimsy, but they do bend and they're not too bad. Swivels at the wrists and hinges at the wrist. The hinges at the wrists are a little loose for my liking. Torso joint, that moves well. Not really any problem there. Hip joints kick out really far. They don't go forward a huge amount because this lower part of his outfit, tunic or whatever, while it's a softer plastic, does still hinder articulation. Single hinge at the knee that doesn't quite meet 90, and then hinges at the ankles with a rocker. So he has some pretty decent articulation, some limitations. Again, a little bit of looseness, but nothing too crazy. You can still get poses. He still holds poses pretty much fine. So they both look pretty good. They both articulate pretty good. Just a bit of looseness, maybe a little bit of inconsistency with a few of the paint apps, but for the most part, I think they look really good and they articulate pretty good. And then in terms of accessories, they come with a ton of stuff, which is probably one of the best things about this set. With Atreus, he comes with an interchangeable left hand that's just supposed to be like a gripping hand. He comes with his little knife here, which just has some basic paint apps, but looks pretty good. He can hold that in either the grip hands, and he holds that fine. But he also has a sheath on his belt here, and it goes in really nice and tightly. That ain't coming out. He also comes with 4 arrows, and you've got these all painted, which is pretty nice. And they all can be stored in his little quiver there. And then, of course, he has his bow. The bow actually does have a real string there attached to it. Bow is sculpted and painted nicely. Again, he can't hold it, of course. You can sling it over his shoulder if you want. But you definitely want to be careful with this string. I don't trust this to stay attached to this very well. You can pull it back a bit, but yeah, I wouldn't trust this to stay together. But he does hold it well, and the left hand he currently has on him has his fingers kind of splayed, so you can actually put the arrow into his hand and make it look like he's getting ready to fire it, so that's really nice. Yeah, overall boy is pretty good, and he comes with the stuff I would expect him to come with. So that is nice, and he can hold it all pretty well, so overall he is pretty solid. Get him holding the bow, put him in the back there. In terms of Kratos, he comes with a ton of stuff, a lot of stuff here. I guess first off, he comes with a pair of interchangeable closed fists, sculpted nicely. One criticism, probably my main criticism with this set, is that the hands and the head are extremely hard. Yeah, they're pretty hard to get off. I had to heat them up to get them off, and I'll probably have to heat them up again to swap them again, and I just don't like that. If I had to heat it up every time just to swap it, that's not very fun. But you do get the 2 fists, which is super cool. The original single release didn't have 2 fists. One of the main pieces that made me want to get this set, the Spartan Rage head, or just where he's yelling, I think is super cool. Adds a ton of emotion and makes the action posing of this guy look a lot more animated and dynamic. And they actually didn't do the red wash on this head. For whatever reason, they did it on the Stoic head, but not this head. So this head is actually a lot more consistent with the coloring of the torso and the arms. And this is the head that after this review is probably going to stay on this figure forever. Because I'm just going to keep the Stoic head. The original release just had the Stoic head. That'll be my Stoic Kratos. This will be my Angry Kratos. I will show this head on the body in a bit. It comes with his knife. Small little knife here. Decently sculpted and painted. You can't hold that. Not super tight because the grip's pretty small. But, or the handle's pretty small rather. But he does have a sheath on his belt here. You can store that in there. Again, this is pretty tight. Holds in there, no problem. And it's not going anywheres. For his gauntlet there on the left side, you get the closed up Guardian Shield and the deployed Guardian Shield. These are both sculpted and painted really nicely. The original single release just came with the Guardian Shield and then did not come with this piece where it's retracted, which isn't accurate because when he's not using the shield, it's in this little retracted state on his gauntlet. And he has a little open tab spot there so you can slot the retracted one there, which looks really good. Or you can take the shield if you want to give them big shield, and you can tab that in, and it slots in pretty nicely. Another fear of mine was some of these accessories might not tab in securely because of it being a bootleg, but this actually does tab in pretty securely, so that's good. I'm just going to keep this this version of it on. Of course, he has to come with the Leviathan axe. It looks real nice. I have no real issue with it. The paint is really clean. Even the paint for the runes is pretty clean. I figured maybe that wouldn't look that good, but it does. No real issues there. You can grip it, no problem. Get it in his hand here. That looks really good. You also get an effect part for it to make it look like he's swinging it, and it's showing kind of its frost powers. It's made of a softer plastic. It's pretty easy to get on. Just slide it on the blade, and it looks like he's swinging it. I really like that. That looks awesome. If you get him in better action poses, it really makes it look really cool. So I really like that a lot. And take that off, not easy. Another feature is you can store it on the figure. He has this little clip on the back. You can just kind of clip it in, slide it down, and now we store the axe on his back. I absolutely love weapon storage where I can get it, so that's very cool. He also comes with 2 sets of the Blades of Chaos. He comes with the blades before they've ever been upgraded when he first gets them in the game. These are really nicely sculpted and painted. Again, some of these things you really wouldn't know if they were bootleg or not. They look great. But one thing that kind of tips me off them being bootleg is you cannot, the original figure on the packaging, it shows you should be able to unplug the hilts from the blades so you can put them in his hands easy. You can't do that. They are either glued or they're just one sculpt. It's hard to tell. But even without that feature, they're pretty easy to get in his hand. I'm just going to put... He holds them okay because I just had the axe in his hand. The axe is a wider grip. That hand's kind of stretched out a bit, so it's holding it a little looser. But this hand's a lot not as pliable for some reason. But get them in there. And they look pretty cool. I like that. But you also get another set of the Blades of Chaos. And the other set you get... Try to be a little careful, I don't want to break them. And the other set you get is actually the... I was going to leave them laying down. Is the upgraded Blades of Chaos. They look a lot nicer looking blades, more ornate looking hilts. And the cool feature with them is they actually have a real metal chain attached to each of them. I don't really know why the unupgraded ones don't have the chain, because it uses the chains with both of them. But the gauntlets here, it's hard to tell. They've got a really small hole that you can barely see. So that's really nice. They're actually well hidden. They're not super obvious, but you can plug those little loops in, give him his chains. And then you can put the blades in his hands. I'm just going to do the one just for time's sake. But yeah, you can do that, and that looks really nice. The chains are still full real metal. They're not like some weird plastic or something dumb. So that's really cool to see. And that looks great. Absolutely love him coming with the Blades of Chaos. I think that's super awesome. That's another few accessories that the original figure didn't come with. You also get an effect part for the Blades of Chaos. You get this little flame effect piece, translucent effect piece you can put on the blades, or only one blade. For some reason you only get one flame piece for just one blade. I don't know why you don't get a flame piece for both blades, but that still looks very cool. I like that a lot. And then the last accessories you get, take these out, move these out of the way, is that you actually get 2 effect parts that you can put on his fist hands to make it look like he's using a Spartan Rage, because he kind of gets all flamey and he punches and it kind of has flame punches. I'm going to attempt to swap the parts and show that stuff, so I'm going to pause the video just because it might take me, I might have to heat the parts up to do it. Okay, I got the closed fist hands on and I got the yelling head on, and I did have to heat them all up. So yeah, they are really annoying to get on, especially the head, because when you swap the head, the dumbbell joint likes to pop out with it out of the neck socket. So then you have to take the dumbbell joint out of the head, then put it back in the body, and then put on the alternate head. It's a whole process. It's pretty annoying. So yeah, this yelling head is just now never going to leave this body. It's the one that looks more consistent with the body anyways. And again, like I said, I have the actual official first release of NECA's God of War figure that has the Stoic head. I'm just going to use that as my Stoic Kratos. You can see those flame effects on the hand. I think those look pretty cool. The one on the left sticks on the hand pretty well. The one on the right just kind of sits on the hand. It doesn't really attach securely. But they look pretty good. And nonetheless, I do like that. Yeah, I guess I'm going to take these off. I'm going to straighten them out. Just give you a quick comparison with the official single release. Like I said, I don't have the official 2-pack. Here is the KO, or I'm pretty sure KO Kratos. Here's the official first release single pack Kratos. So you can see kind of some of the differences. Kind of the big difference is the way they did the skin tones. I do like this one a bit better, even though it's still not 100% accurate. Just the paint on it's a bit better. The colors are a bit better. And I really like the black wash added to the face. It really brings out the sculpted detail of the wrinkles in his forehead and that sort of thing. But you can see otherwise, detail-wise, when it comes to their costume, their outfit, their gear, and all that, there's not really a crazy bit of difference when it comes to some color differences. But the paint-wise and the paint quality and colors is not all that different, as you can see, or probably see, I hope. You can't see the difference here. He has a Mimir on his back there instead. But obviously there's some sculpt changes because there was between the two. But yeah, there's that. So overall, I think this is actually a pretty cool set. It's actually a really decent quality knockoff of the official 2-pack. The biggest issue is just with the swapping of the parts is really unfun. So if you do decide to get this set, I would choose which parts you want to have on him. Just keep them on him when it comes to his hands and his head. And then aside from that, that won't be much of an issue. The paint is surprisingly really good on these guys. They still have all their accessories. All the accessories are still painted pretty well. Obviously, like I said, some looseness to some of the joints, but nothing too crazy. They're not crazy loose. They're just a bit looser than I like them to be. A little bit of paint consistency, but luckily the head I wanted to use doesn't have that paint inconsistency anyways. So yeah, I think this is pretty good. If you want this 2-pack and you don't want to pay the crazy prices that I see this 2-pack can go for, like $200-$300, which is crazy for two 7-inch scale figures. And if you're interested, I would definitely recommend picking up one of these KO sets. Now you do got to be careful. There are some KOs that are different. I have seen some KOs. I got mine on eBay, but I have seen some KOs on AliExpress that do look pretty terrible, where they did like major changes, cut out pieces of articulation, replaced accessories and that sort of thing. You want to try to avoid that, but if you can get one like this, then it's quite good. I'm definitely really satisfied with it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Very long video, kind of apologize for that, but a lot to talk about. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one.